monitored a meeting since 6:30 this morning, looking at the interventions that we're trying to do. So greetings to you once more, and greetings to the residents of Johannesburg. The first part that we want to speak to is the water demand management, which is an important part of the work that we're doing. You'd know that we have been trying to reduce the consumption in Johannesburg, and the bulk of it is as a result of our water losses, which continue to stretch our demand in Joburg. Also included is residents' consumption, which is quite higher than it should be. We're supposed to be at least consuming about 1,550 megaliters a day. We are now sitting at about 1,750. So we have to reduce that to 1,550, because that's the amount of water that were apportioned by rainwater. So we are looking at how best we can do that. Part of the strategy is throttling, as you know that particularly at night, we try to throttle water so that we can reduce the losses during the night, and also to reduce which will contribute to us reducing the that we consume in Johannesburg. So it's an important part as journalists. As we report on the non-availability in other areas, it's important to also speak about water demand, conservation of water, and how we use the water in our areas. So it's an important part that I thought I should start with. We have been working towards reducing it. It's taking time, but we want our residents, for example, residents should not be watering their gardens, especially during the day. Preferably after 6 in the evening, it's better to water your garden, but would prefer you at this stage where we are trying to manage distribution of water, that it is very much important that you don't water your gardens, you don't use clean water for your. Also requesting them to recycle the water so that we reduce the demand. Can we have order there?
Colleagues, please keep it down.
Can they probably move?
Please.
Because they're disturbing that too. So that's the part of what I thought I should start with. But of importance, therefore, is the areas that are mid-rent area, and I'll try and speak to the reservoirs themselves in terms of percentages that we're beginning to see in mid-rent. As you know, that's where we're affected just around the period in January the 26th. That's when the water reservoir, the rainwater reservoir, had a leak. It's called the Klipfontein reservoir, which had a leak, and we had to try and restore that reservoir. And the indication was that yes, it will take time for the Joburg reservoirs to then pick up and get sufficient water to supply. Where we are now, we are only battling in true sense at the Errant reservoir and tower, which is not picking up in the manner in which we wanted to pick it up. So it's sitting at about 2%. But what we have also done with the reservoir is to bypass the reservoir so that the supply of water that we can provide in the area. You know, in January, we did indicate that the Grand Central was battling, but Grand Central has shown an improvement at 55% for the reservoir and 47% at the tower, which is an indication that we're improving. Not everyone has water now, but we are seeing an improvement in the area. President Park, which supplies a much larger area, has also improved at about 57%. We want these reservoirs to get over 60 so that we can say now we're at a comfortable stage. So it's taking a bit of time. We're working with rainwater so that they continue to pump water. But what they also had to do was to balance Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni and Tshwane So that forced the pumping to be done at a particular technique so that you can allow everybody to have water. You know that that reservoir affected Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Johannesburg. But where we are, we think we are now improving, and we are getting feedback from customers as and when they're beginning to get water. At times, you'd find that the system at night might experience problems after 6, 7, because people now start harvesting water, and that drains the reservoirs quite much quicker. Can you go to the next area, which I think we are seeing an improvement, is the area around Randburg and Rodiport, which remains stable with no real challenges, except for one reservoir, which is at 32%, which is the Constantia Tower, and we are trying to get it to an acceptable percentage. And we then go to the Meredale, which will have Rosettenville, Honeydew, Cosmo, etc., is sitting quite comfortable without challenges. Now, let's go to an area where we think there's challenges now, which is Ayrton, Crown Gardens, Eagle's Nest, Chawela, Doronkop North, Jabulani, Meadowlands, Power Park Tower, Zondi, Kibla Park, and Glen Vista. These are the areas that are currently adversely affected, and we are doing our level best, except for Ayrton, which is sitting at 85%, which is quite okay for us to supply those areas. Crown Gardens is at 26, it's quite bad. So these are the areas: Eagle Nest at 5, Chawela at 23. At least we have seen an improvement on the Doronkop North at 45%, 25% for Meadowlands, 4% for Power Park, Zondi 21, and Kibla Park at 49, and Glen Vista at 20%. What we have also done is to bypass the Jabulani. You know that Jabulani reservoir is quite damaged. We have commissioned it for refurbishment, so we have bypassed so that at least we can continue to supply water in the Soweto area. So those are the areas that are affected, and our technician and engineers are busy on the ground so that we can get this thing right. We were affected by a possible strike, which started on Friday, started in a form of a go-slow. By yesterday, the management of Joburg Water, together with SAMU, they then reached an agreement, and everybody is now back at work, whilst the 2 weeks that they've agreed on will allow management and labor to resolve the challenges that exist currently. But in the meantime, all workers have returned back to their stations. We have agreed with the Minister and the Deputy Minister of Water this morning that they will also be giving necessary support together with Rand Water, because part of what we require Rand Water to be doing is to pump so that its reservoirs can be full to capacity, so that they can then be able to pump into our reservoirs as Joburg Water. So that's where we are in terms of the updates, and would want to increase the frequency of updates to yourselves as the media, and of course to our customers. The normal interventions in terms of provision of water tankers will also be continuing. But also in the good news, we are completing what should have been completed last year, November, which is this reservoir and tower, which is now at testing and commissioning. We are hoping to be fully functional by month end. By month end of February, it will then be fully functional. I think it's at 37, if I'm correct, million liters. Am I right? Yeah, the total, the tower and the reservoir will give us about 37 million liters. So in that way, it will help us to provide Region B with sufficient storage, and we can now supply Region B with water. And we do apologize to our customers that this thing has taken longer, especially in areas where not had water for over 15 days, 25 days. We are trying our level best to restore water back. In some instances, we have the capacity to have been able to provide water in the morning until in the afternoon, but after 5, we've been battling to do so. Allow me to conclude. You'll ask a question. As I said, we are working together with our communities to ensure that we supply water to our people. And we are fortunate that we are not at day zero, because everything that we are doing is to ensure that there's water. Some areas will battle, but we are trying to push and balance the water distribution. At this stage, we are ready to take questions. Sorry, Katu, taking a job. Ke kopa ke tshaba lo nwa metsi. Ke kopa tee.
You are from
Number.
and to whom your question is directed to. The MD of Joburg Water is here. The MMC for Environment and Infrastructure Service, MMC Sigwaila, is also here, as well as Mr. Ranil Nico, who's a Senior Manager for Networks at Joburg Water. I'll start here. Your name and which media house you're from. Yes.
From Daily Mapper.
Kima?
Daily from Daily Mapper. My question is why does this outage seem random? Like you were speaking about Shawela and all these places, and I do have water in Shawela, but somebody a few streets down, they don't have water. It's so random. Even in you find that people in Dobson will have water, people nearby don't have water. It's just random. Is there an explanation to that?
Katu.
Okay, next one. Alex.
It's Alex Patrick from News 24. I don't know if you saw reports about the Minister of Water and Sanitation saying she washes her hands off the issue here and it's a municipal issue. How do you respond to that? Thank you.
When did she wash her hands?
Yesterday.
Oh.
Well, it's obviously not here. So.
My name is
Hi there, Christine from the factory in Joburg. My question is relating to communication with residents. A lot of residents are complaining they don't know what the issue is, they don't know where or when water tankers are going to be in their areas. Why is there a communication lag in that way? And then the second question is in relation to Joburg Water's infrastructure. So at the start of your briefing, you said residents should use their water, but can't Joburg Water's crippling infrastructure, burst pipes, that sort of thing, also account for more even water losses? Thank you.
Novile.
I'm Shirley from GMCA. Mayor, should the water crisis be declared a national state of disaster? First question. The second question, is there a particular reason why we've seen this sort of increase in the outages? We've always known of like this sort of area, the south of Johannesburg, and a little bit of the east. But now there just seems to be even more areas that are out, and your Joburg Water's updates show a lot of great areas across different systems. So why exactly is that happening, and why is it happening now? And then the other question is on the water trucks and the tankers. I know Mayor says that, and Joburg Water when they speak, they say that the trucks will be out and whatever. But from what we're seeing and from residents, there's a lot of inconsistency in how the trucks come to the communities, how many come to the communities. A lot seem to be stranded, where there isn't a set program or way that the trucks are coming. And this is what people also see on the ground, and it seems very erratic. So can you just get clarity of why that seems to be happening?
Okay. My brother at the back with the white shirt.
Mayor Enzo Isabella from Bloomberg. Can you confirm how much SCP estimates to fix water infrastructure and where the funding will come from? And based on your estimations, and based on what we see going on in Knysna, how close would Joburg be to day zero?
Okay, coming, Zikona.
Zikhona Shona from Kaya News. Mayor, two questions. The first one is, what would you like the residents of the city to take away from this update today? We've seen them out protesting in various areas this morning. And the second one is, are we facing a possible water shedding similar to load shedding?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Problem and development views of Africa. Mine is really just to understand the duration. The mayor spoke about various ways of course that are sitting at 5, 20%, and so on. What's the duration that you estimate when you move into the 60% so that it's able to be met?
Okay. Fabian.
Good afternoon, Mayor. It's Vera Adam from Watercan. I think for me, I'm a bit concerned that, well, I do think we have a national day zero, a day zero in the city of Joburg in terms of infrastructure. And I do think we need to call for a national disaster. Infrastructure is not just Joburg, it's the country. But I'm really surprised that, the issues that we've seen in the commando system and then the ones affected by Alexander Park, the Hector Norris pump station where Selby has been reliant on water tanks for about 6 months. I mean, I think those should be the key focus for me in terms of getting a stable system. And I don't hear the answers. And it's not enough for us to just be patient anymore because many of these areas, people are going on day 25 and day 20. So I really think that there needs to be a bigger urgency given to those areas without the water. And it's not pockets, it's large amounts of people who have not had water for many days. And for me, that is classified as a day zero.
Okay, and then Kwena. That will be my last question for the first round.
My name is Shani from the solution. My question is mostly on raining power. The residents are saying that they're now being built for air when there's no water coming from their pipes.
They've been built for
air. So now they're saying, on top of that, they are wondering what's going on. There's a possible tax boycott on their side. And it's basically pleading with the city to give them water or they want a tax boycott.
Okay. AM can take the first round.
Okay. Maybe let me deal with the question by Kwena in relation to billing. Well, you should not be billed for what you have not consumed. It's a matter of principle. So customers that have been billed for water and they've not had water, they should come forward so that we look at their bills. It could have been they are currently on estimates. As you know that our credit control management allows us to estimate you for 3 months, and beyond the 3 months it must be an actual. So it could be that they are still on estimate, so they must just submit their invoices or their bills so that the reversals can take place. So it should not be much of a difficulty, especially to our customers that continue to pay the city without fail. So they can just present themselves and then we will do the necessary adjustment to the accounts, because it is not fair to be billed for something that you have not consumed. So it means it's basically on estimates. So we must correct that particular. So I thought that's how I could respond. And we do need our residents to continue to pay for their rates and taxes, as we need this money also to invest into the infrastructure, albeit the challenges that are there, which I think we must continue to work together to resolve the challenges that affect our communities. We also have a difficulty in terms of the inaccurate bills, which is an important part that we should talk to. That yes, we're experiencing about 16,000 on a month to month of inaccurate bills that have queries that we must resolve. And there are challenges at times. It's as a result of not feeding the correct information into the system. In some instances, it's as a result of estimations, and in some instances, it's our lack to have sufficient people to deal with meter reading on the ground. So that that could be some of the reasons why we're billing about just over 1.2 million accounts throughout Johannesburg, and 16,000 of those month to month. We see constant queries on those, and we resolve a particular percentage, which is about 45%, that we are able to resolve month to month on those particular queries. At least in terms of our billing and collection, especially for Joburg Water, we have seen a 90% success rate in terms of our billing, which is good. However, as we are saying, there are instances where we have billed people who have not had water for the longest period. Those we will then effect the reversals and the adjustments. There's a question about mobile on the infrastructure, or the 60%, when are we improving? With water, it becomes very difficult to ascertain yourselves and say, on this day, because today we can be at 60 now, and then at 5 o'clock, people start harvesting, and the reservoir drops completely. So let's allow a 60% to be consistent. And once it's consistent for about 3 to 4 days, then we know that the system is stable, will not be faced with difficulties. And it's important to indicate that for those that are affected as a result of the Klipfontein reservoir and other reservoirs of rainwater, it will take a bit of time to see that improvement. But we are happy that Midrand is beginning to see the improvement that we want. We're very much concerned about Soweto in particular, because all the 3 reservoirs in Soweto requires a total refurbishment because they've been damaged over time. But over and above, we're also experiencing customers not being responsible with the use of water. As you know, that the bulk of Soweto in particular is deemed consumption. So there's no sense of responsibility on the usage of water. And that is why there's a lot of engagement we are doing with ward councillors and communities in Soweto. And I think tomorrow I'm also going to Soweto just on consumption, because we need to preach this gospel on usage in consumption areas. We are not near to day 0, but yes, for people that have not had water at all, logically it would mean they've been at day 0. So we need to make sure that we look at those areas, sort those areas that have been adversely affected, ensure that we can pick up. And I think the weather is not also insisting in terms of the heat wave, and people are consuming more water. So we need to ensure that we pick up MD and the team. We have also taken a decision this morning that we will be visiting all the depots, meeting with the actual engineers on the grounds, technicians on the ground, to understand what the gravity of the challenges that we have, so that we can resolve this thing. But we are also saying to our communities, especially in the townships, in areas like Alexander, Soweto, Orange Farm, they continue to build illegal structures that are not approved, and some of the structures are built right on top of the infrastructure, and we're unable to access some of the valves that we need to access to ensure that there's a continuous free flow of water in those areas. So that is part of what we are doing in this campaign as I engage with communities. We have engaged with stakeholders in the Parkmore, Parkhurst areas last week to engage with them on what is happening. So I had very successful engagements with ratepayers associations last week, Thursday. I was in Soweto on Wednesday. We are continuing with stakeholder engagement. And there's also closed meetings with stakeholders where we actually give them all the facts of what is happening, what budgets are we putting in place, what are the future plans that we will be doing, and we'll probably plan a further media engagement just on the future plans of what we're investing and what we are doing to resolve the water issues in Johannesburg for the longest of time. So, Peggy, you'd find that the system is not supplied from the same system. So you may be in Chawela, but your area might be probably supplied from a commando system or some system, and the other people are supported from a particular system. So that is why you'll find that you're in the same ward, others have water, others don't have water. It's an infrastructure issue on where are you supplied from. But you will know the real technical issues, what supplies Chawela. Well, the minister can wash her hands. I don't know if she did say that. Mhlambe kathetha ngesixhosa to try and explain it in Xhosa. But the minister has been hands-on in the Joburg issues. This morning at 6:30, I was in the meeting with the minister, putting the necessary support to ensure that Joburg does not experience water challenges. And in fact, she's now boarding a flight. She's hopeful to get a flight at around 2. She wants to be here as I engage with community meetings this afternoon. So from the ministers and the deputy minister, they've been hands-on, giving us all the necessary support in Joburg. So, and as Babe that in, but I guess Ibesho Enyinto, because she's really hands-on in Joburg. And not only in Joburg, in the Gauteng. In fact, the government of the province, the MEC for Kokta, on a weekly basis, we've got war room meetings with the MEC. Rand Water attends, ourselves and all other municipalities, so that we can crack the problem, have solutions, and sustain the solutions that we have had. We are not communicating sufficiently. The media people have been saying it, communities have been saying that our communication is not sufficient. Yes, it is there, but it's not sufficient. So we must improve. Perhaps you'll give me ideas as media people on how to better the communication. But we are trying through these press conferences, media releases, stakeholder engagements, and public meetings. But I'll welcome an advice from experts, Alex, on how we can improve on the communication. Disaster, I don't think we've reached that stage. The concerns is to ensure that we pick up all areas, ensure that we've got sufficient storage, fix Hestil 1 and Hestil 2, which we are currently fixing so that we can have the capacity to pump enough water. Ensure that President Park goes under refurbishment developments that have happened, which are residential and commercial in Midrand. They've moved much faster than our infrastructure. So we're improving with 4 reservoirs and 3 towers. 1 tower is almost complete, is at commissioning. So we should be able to bring it on board to assist with the water supply. We're also relooking at the size into the future of our reservoirs. As you know that some of the reservoirs are basically your 7 megaliters. We need to broaden in the new that we build much bigger reservoirs to be able to sustain and maintain water storage in our area. The other issues, may I request that the MMC and the CEO, which are more technical, that they can respond to.
No, sorry, Mayor. I asked you, so residents were protesting today. What do you want them to take out of today's engagement?
What the residents should see today, should see us saying in your area, this is the percentage where we are, this is where the teams are pushing, so that you can get to the level where it's 60%. But he will respond directly, especially where I think it's Malville, where there's a protest. Where are we now to ensure that they've got water? He will give a more technical response. Bloomberg asked on the funding. It's a bigger issue. We are working very hard to ring-fence one through the National Treasury reforms, and there's also a benefit depending on the work that we do, that we will receive a particular grant from National Treasury which will help us to invest into the infrastructure. Ourselves as the city, we are also raising capital. We have raised about 500 from financing institutions to finance the refurbishment of reservoirs, about 500 million. So we continue to look at other models on how best we can raise money. And I think with National Treasury reforms, they will then help us to ring-fence a particular revenue into the water business and ring-fence that for the infrastructure. In this year's budget, we are currently sitting at about 1.7 billion. We hope that we will increase into the new financial year, and the bulk of it will then be targeted at ensuring that we can invest into our water business. Our backlog is too huge, 27 billion, so we need to confront that challenge with energy and preparedness to resolve the water challenge in Joburg. Can I ask the MMC and the MD to take the other questions? Let's have a loan one minute. Yeah.